Aloha, my love. Welcome to the Dark Horse Herd, where we are all about helping you remember your magic in sacred partnership with the medicine of the horse. And today's transmission is about the 3 different levels that horses channel your energy. And so this is specifically geared towards my conscious horsewomen who get that you're sharing the vibes with your horse and are ready to discover and go deeper around how the horses are channeling energy. And while that focus is going to be from their perspective, from their lens in today's conversation, know that it's always a vice versa. Know that what I'm sharing with you applies to both 2-legged and 4. Before we dive into this conversation, my name again is Helena Das, and I have gone from a renegade vet for over 2 decades to horse shaman to now equine mystic and guide for, again, my deep feelers, sensitive souls, and especially women who love and have horses in their lives that they are ready to partner with for that next level growth, healing, and transformation. And so without further ado, I want to share with you these 3 different levels that horses channel energy. Now, on a really basic level, and this may be something you're already aware of or not, but I promise you, stick with me because we're going to go kind of deep, and I'm going to share some personal case studies, if you will, that I either witnessed or worked with myself during my 2-decade career, if you will, past former life as a renegade vet. And so these 3 levels in a real basic way are going to be the physical, the emotional, and then the mental, okay? And again, while that sounds really basic and like duh, I want you to really understand the depth of the multidimensional beings that not only we are, but our horses are as well. So I think it would be really helpful to share with you a few kind of anecdotal, not like pure case studies, but really observations, probably is a better word, of, again, my history of 2 decades working with hundreds and hundreds of horses and their humans in, quote, horse capital of the world, Marion County, Florida. And something that I was absolutely amazed to notice during that time period was that there were so many horses and their humans that overlapped in multiple ways. So let's start with the physical, right? The physical. So I can remember a specific client who I was treating her beautiful quarter horse for hind end and hip problems. Well, during our conversation, she happened to mention that she also had hip problems that she was getting massage or acupuncture for. And excuse me. Pardon me, my allergies have been a little crazy lately. Anyway, she also had hip problems, and the horse had hip problems. And as we dug a little deeper, both in our conversation and relationship, because I worked with her and her horse for many years, actually. She was a very loyal client, if you will, committed client. The patterns that I started to see emerging in her horse's hind end issues, I know that it wasn't an accident that the same side on the left hind where the horses was having the primary hip issues, hip and sacral and, hind end, low back, was the same side as hers. Now, if you think about it, she rode her horse regularly. If you think about it, it kind of makes sense that if you're sitting on your horse's back and you have some sort of physical imbalance, right? The horse is going to not only feel that, but maybe even compensate to hold you and support you in trying to do their job, right? In serving and carrying you, whether it's a trail ride, a pleasure ride, or, some other sport or performance. So that makes like a lot of sense. And that part wasn't that hard to, believe, if you will, and or for my clients to believe when we got to chatting about how their physical mechanics or balance was actually affecting their horse's mechanics or balance and physical performance or wellness, right? So there's that physical example. And she wasn't the only one. I saw and witnessed, again, many horse-human duos or partners have this overlap. But what actually became really intriguing over the years was this didn't just involve the physical, mechanical, balance type issues. It actually extended to stomach ulcers. Okay, there's another client I can think of where the teenage daughter had these stomach issues, really weak, intense stomach issues, and their horse, which was a show horse that I was treating, had stomach ulcers. I don't think that was a coincidence. And I was lucky enough that this particular client really was open to that shared energy piece, and I began working with both the daughter and the horse, doing different things from energy work to nutritional and herbal support. But ultimately, they both soared and hit this milestone in their, show jumping career. And they were also obviously committed to the journey, right? And doing multiple sessions and doing the nutritional support, all the things. So that's another example. And then even, more wild than that, a couple others just to mention briefly. A colleague of mine had shared with me that one of her vet clients, the daughter was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and the horse also suffered and struggled with a brain tumor that they ended up having to put down. And so that's another example. And the last one that comes to mind, there are so many, again, in that 2-decade career or time period. Another one that comes to mind, and this might not seem like, an exact physical mirroring, if you will, a little bit kind of indirect, if you will, in terms of the physical manifestations of something that was going on with the human and the horse. And I want to say here, sometimes it's chicken or the egg, right? There's no blame here and no shame. Some humans are super sensitive and they will empathically absorb and take on the energies of their horse or those around them, right? Horses are also wired that way to a certain degree. There are actually 5 different energetic archetypes that we'll chat about in another video coming soon. But today I wanted to talk about these different levels or dimensions that this shared energy is happening between horse and human. I mean, it happens between humans as well, but because my passion and obsession and legacy work and soul's work has to do with this horse-human connection and partnership, this is what we're focusing on today, okay? So the other example that comes to mind that I want to share is where this woman had called me out for her another quarter horse gelding. It was a pleasure horse that she had her whole life. I want to say he was in his maybe early teens. the horse. She was an older woman, and at the time she called me out, he had actually gone lame recently, which she had never had happen up until that point with him. And when we got to chatting and I was doing my assessment of him, and she happened to share that her husband had recently, I think he either had a heart attack or a stroke. This is going back a while. I don't remember. Something happened to her husband and she was super, super stressed. Okay. She was super stressed out. And so she was dealing with all of this with her husband. And now the horse comes down lame, right? So I did my thing. I worked my magic. I, did my energetic assessment. I did some gentle spinal manipulation and balancing to address the physical lameness on the horse. Now, I also asked her, because she had shared with me about her husband and her stress level, if she was open to exploring the energetic and emotional layer of what was going on with the horse. And she was. Not everybody was. It was really the minority of clients who were open to this. But anyway, she was open, and I started doing my energy read and clearing on her, okay, because I was using her to read the energy. And so it definitely, there was a bit of, whether you want to call it surrogacy or empathy going on, where the horse was taking on his human's stress levels. I cleared the energies in her, again, with her permission. And it was amazing because within 24 hours, she had let me know the horse, I think, was already 75% improved and went on to fully recover from there over the next few days. And so that was really fascinating. And what I know for sure is, in my experience in terms of treating the horses, again, hundreds and hundreds of horses that I was blessed to work on during that time of my life, when I started adding in and incorporating this next level of the emotional and the energetic and the shared energy, like the healing and the recovery and the restoration of health and balance happened so much faster and more powerfully than when I was working on a horse solely on that horse, if that makes sense. So one other example wants to come through, and then I want to kind of touch on a couple other pieces. But this happened, there were a couple of horses where this actually happened, where the horse was either like a rescue or kind of skittish. And because while I am, for the most part, most horses have always taken quite easily to me, this particular horse, for whatever reason, just was not trusting me, didn't trust me, and I couldn't get near it, I couldn't touch it. And it was also on a day where that horse was pretty worked up. And so anyway, I went out to the farm, and again, chatting with the woman, and she was, again, one of the the rare occasions where she was actually open to me working on the horse through her energy, because she was very, very connected. It was obvious to the horse, and wanted to do whatever she could to help the horse. And the horse, actually, they called me out there because he was having some neck issues. And what was absolutely amazing, and I can think of even a couple other horses where this was the case, but it was amazing. I never touched that horse. I actually worked on the woman, clearing and doing the energy clearing and energy work on her, and the horse got better. Okay. And, because I came back and we followed up, and the horse was already dramatically improved on the second visit. And so why am I sharing this with you? I'm sharing this with you to hopefully impress upon you how connected we really are. And again, like we are all connected. Anybody with a heart, anybody with feelings, anyone who is even, remotely or what is the word I'm looking for? Like connected more than their heads can like feel energy. If you can walk into a room and feel the energy of the room, if you, know that you've had those experiences where you maybe have been thinking about someone, right? And then they call you out of the blue or whatever that is, right? Like energy is real. Energy is honestly the foundation of everything, right? We have first, everything happens first in the energetic realm. And then as that is amplified and reinforced through thought, feelings, and actions, right? It is creating the physical manifestation. So when we are purely addressing something from the physical level, for example, like if we were to simply just do chiropractic or body work on ourselves or the horses, you're missing out on a couple other layers, the emotional, the energetic, right? And it's the reason that I have found for myself, for the many horses that I worked with, for my own horses and animals, it is the reason when something doesn't really stick, when something doesn't maybe recover as fully as you would like it to, those are the missing links. Those are the areas, the energetic and the emotional and the mental, that because they haven't been addressed, they're continuing to recreate the issue in the physical realm. Does that make sense? So if we even take it deeper and we look at things like trauma, right? Traumatic events or chronic stress, and the body like either living in chronic survival mode or having experienced some sort of traumatic event that never got energetically discharged from the body, okay? Because it's not about the trauma itself, it's about how we are processing, metabolizing, and discharging the energy from the body. And when we don't do that, that's when we have problems. That's when it crystallizes and creates a pain body, creates energetic blocks, energetic imprints that are wreaking havoc on your health, your wealth, your manifestation, and beyond. Okay, and so I really want to speak to and just like remind you, like even if you happen to be, say, a soul-led entrepreneur, businesswoman, which I have a lot in my audience as well. Many coaches will talk about this, how it's 80 to 90% of what you're creating and your results is based on the energy versus the strategy, on your frequency, on your leadership, on your embodiment, on your who you are being, right? Your identity. Those are all the energetic pieces that are the reason why you can have two people doing the exact same, line of work, right? And why is one person, crushing it and the other one isn't, okay? And so it always comes back down to the energy and the mental and the emotional. And so while we look at the physical to sort of assess, if you will, the tangible results and shifts and all the things, it is just so important to remember that energy is everything and it actually comes first. Like everything that you see in the physical world was once like a thought or an idea in someone's mind, right? It lived in the realm of energy, of the unseen. And to make the unseen seen, it requires, as I mentioned before, the amplification, the repetition of particular thoughts, feelings, emotions, and ultimately the actions, which creates the thing, okay? Hope this is making sense. So another analogy that I think I'll leave you with, and then we'll wrap up for today, is like planting a seed, right? You plant the seed, whether you're growing a plant or planting the seed of your vision, of your desire, you plant that seed in the earth. You plant that seed in the fertile, womb of your internal landscape, right? That dream or desire. That seed needs, both physically and emotionally and energetically, right? It needs the water, it needs the sun, it needs the fertilization, it needs the weeds to be pulled out, right? So it's not blocking the growth in order to grow and thrive and bloom. So in the same sense, when we have a vision, when we have a calling, when we have a desire on our heart, like we don't just plant that seed once, right? We have to continue watering it and nourishing it and fertilizing it over time. And there's this period where until it breaks through the crust of the earth and you see some sort of physical sign or manifestation of that seed sprouting, there's this time of things that are going on beneath the scenes, behind the scenes, right? That you're not seeing, where like everything is happening and you're not seeing the proof of it yet. You're not seeing the fruits yet, right? And so there needs to be a certain level of commitment and faith and trust to whatever it is you want to grow or bloom or manifest or create in your life. And this also applies, to come back full circle, to the health and well-being of our horses, of ourselves, even of the connection in our relationship, and so much more. And so, as a quick recap, I promised that you would walk away with the 3 different levels that horses are literally sharing and channeling your energy. And if you have that like heart horse, I want to invite you to actually think about which one of these levels there may be some overlap in terms of whether it's something you're picking up, like you're feeding off of each other's energy, right? Again, you could be picking up their energy or they could be picking up your energy. The way that either of you is actually channeling the energy also has a unique flavor. And each individual, 2-legged or 4, is wired differently. And this can shift over time or evolve over time in terms of the way that you channel energy. And so I am going to be dropping another video soon on the 5 different energetic archetypes, on the way that you or your horse are channeling energy to take this conversation to the next level. Excuse me. One more sip of water. So, if you received value, if you want to see more videos and content like this, let me know down below. Give me some love. Thank you in advance for sharing, following if you haven't yet. Hit that notification bell so you know when the next one comes out. And until next time, ciao for now. Namaste.